everyone, welcome to the training on Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, otherwise known as EDI. My name's Rhian and I'll be delivering the training and will be your key point of contact during the book festival as the EDI officer. Hopefully you've got a cup of tea or coffee, but if you haven't, just pause this, go and put the kettle on, grab yourself a cuppa and join me. I've got mine. If you're listening to this on your laptop, I would advise that you put your phone on silent or put it on aeroplane mode, just so that you can be present while we're doing this training. It won't be long and it will need your undivided attention. Please do write down any questions during the presentation, and the EDI policy has either been sent to you or will be emailed to you if you haven't already received it. As volunteers supporting this book festival, it's essential to understand that the protections and principles outlined in the Equality Act 2010 are vital to your role as a volunteer. This Act plays a huge role in ensuring that everyone, whether festival attendees, authors or fellow volunteers, are treated fairly and respectfully. In this slide, we're covering a fundamental aspect of EDI, the Equality Act, and it highlights the significance of each protected characteristic covered in the Act. So, just to go through those 9 protected characteristics. Age. It prohibits both direct and indirect age discrimination, as well as harassment and victimisation related to age. Disability, ensuring that individuals with physical or mental disabilities are treated with respect and that reasonable accommodation are made for them, whether it's helping them navigate the festival grounds or providing additional assistance if needed. Gender reassignment. Be mindful and respectful of anyone who is transitioning, has transitioned or is planning to transition to a different gender. Marriage and civil partnership. Remember that discrimination against individuals who are married or in a civil partnership is prohibited, especially in work-related interactions. Pregnancy and maternity. If you encounter any attendees or volunteers who are pregnant or on maternity leave, ensure that they receive the support and fair treatment they deserve. Race. Treat everyone with respect, regardless of their race, colour, nationality or ethnic origins, celebrating the diversity that adds richness to our festival. Religion and belief. Respect individuals' religious beliefs or lack thereof, ensuring that the festival remains an inclusive space for everyone. Sex. Ensure that all volunteers and attendees, regardless of their gender, are treated equally and fairly. Sexual orientation. Be supportive and respectful of individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation, whether they are heterosexual, homosexual or bisexual. As volunteers, you play a critical role in fostering an inclusive and welcoming environment. By keeping these principles in mind, you will help ensure that everyone can enjoy the event without fear of discrimination or unfair treatment. So this is a reflective activity. Just pause and take 5 minutes to reflect on the protected characteristics, writing down and thinking about some potential issues that could arise in the book festival and how you might overcome it. So the next slide is on personalities and biases. We all have personalities of different sorts. We all have biases that are impacted by a number of different factors. I'm just going to go through some of those factors. The first one is personal experiences. So we've all got different personal experiences and will influence how we see the world and other people. Cultural influences. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm Welsh. In my upbringing, in my cultural environment, We were always chatting to people, we were always talking to people. Now, a lot of people don't actually like that. They want their personal space. So I have to be very mindful of how I come across within the public sector, and that includes voluntary work. Media exposure. You'll know by now that as you watch the television or you see things on the television, you will be influenced by that. So please bear this in mind when you're reflecting on your own behaviours and your own view on other people. Your education, how we're educated, both formally and informally, influences our views and beliefs of the world and how we interact with the world. And that's all shaped in how we see and view other people. Our social environment. Who we interact with, our friends and our family, inform our biases, whether that's positive or negative. So we have to be aware of those influences within our lives. Underexposure of particularly people who might be of a different race to us, or a different gender to us, or even a different age to us, can make us more susceptible to stereotypes and assumptions about others. So by reflecting on these factors, we can begin to challenge our own biases and therefore work towards creating a more inclusive and equitable environment. We're going to look at how bias is manifested within our interactions. We're just going to have a look at 3 different aspects of this. The first one is favouritism of interaction. Please, when you see someone, one of your friends, queuing up, you might want to have a chat with them. There might be someone in front of them in the queue. You're showing favouritism to them at the exclusion of the person in front. So just maybe say to your friend, listen, I'll catch up with you later. And don't be afraid of just saying, I'm really sorry, that's a friend I know, and then go back to the person that you were talking to. So don't show favouritism in your interaction. Assumption of roles. When you see someone, you might naturally assume on age, ethnicity or gender, and we might assume that they are more interested in a particular genre of books, for example. That might not be the case. So please challenge those assumptions when you're dealing with people. Exclusion in conversations. It's so easy sometimes to exclude people in conversations, whether we mean to or not, but we need to be reflective about this. So when you're talking to someone, please bear this in mind. These are some top tips. Use inclusive language. It's so easy to not use inclusive language. I use we a lot rather than I or you. It just promotes that inclusivity when you're dealing with people. And just respect all viewpoints when you're talking to people. The second one to bear in mind, the second top tip, is to ensure consistency, especially in the book festival. There are rules. There's rules to queue, there's rules to show your ticket, there's rules to sit down, but make sure that you're applying those rules consistently and to be seen to be consistent in that as well. The third one is be mindful. Be mindful of your non-verbal communication, eye contact, gesticulations, body language. All of those things back up what you're saying to someone, your tone of voice. Be consistent. The fourth one is monitoring. Monitoring of yourself. Think of your biases. Think and reflect on what you've said to someone and then adapt. The fifth one is practice. Practice listening, giving equal attention and thoughtfulness to what someone's saying. And the last one is use. Use visual aids carefully. So we'll be coming on to a few scenarios in a moment, but if you're approached by someone that has English as a second language and they're asking for directions, use visual aids thoughtfully. Don't patronise. Make sure that you might be writing down the directions in a way that they understand but isn't patronising. So this is a reflection activity. Again, just pause and reflect on this. There's going to be some scenarios coming up on the next slide. Have a read through of them all. Look at what the volunteers are doing and have a think and write down what their bias is showing. Once you've done that, think about what the volunteer could ask or could have done to stop escalation of this scenario. A volunteer is more polite and attentive to attendees who are well dressed and speak fluent English. However, when a second language English speaker asks for directions to an event they have a ticket for, the volunteer gives a brief and helpful response and quickly moves on, giving the impression the individual won't be able to engage fully with the festival. Scenario 2. At the entrance of a book festival event, a volunteer checks attendees' tickets. When a person from an ethnic minority group presents their ticket, the volunteer scrutinises it more carefully, asking for additional identification or verification while quickly approving tickets for other attendees without similar questioning. A person with a hearing impairment approaches a volunteer at the book festival and asks if there's a hearing loop system available in the event venue. The volunteer, realising that no such system is in place, suggested that the attendee go to a different venue. So just take 5 minutes to reflect on those different scenarios and think of a way that those volunteers could de-escalate. Please bear in mind that these are based on real experiences. And lastly, if you haven't had your questions answered during the training, you can contact me using the details on the screen. Thank you so much for your time and engagement in the training session. I hope you found it helpful.